the privilege of speaking with someone who is truly redefining what support and recovery can look like. I'm joined with Mimi Rosen, founder of Soberfly, a concierge level service that goes far beyond traditional models of care. What stands out about Soberfly to me is not just the services themselves, the companions, the transports, the case management, but the philosophy behind it. This is about building customized human-centered care. Teams of thoughtfully curated psychiatrists, therapists, and somatic practitioners all working together in ways that feel both strategic and deeply personal. And what I admire most is Mimi's willingness to think differently, not just placing someone into any type of care, but asking, what does this individual actually need? With that said, I want to introduce Mimi Rosen. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi,
Welcome,
Iris.
welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a beautiful introduction.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm just happy to be here to chat and help the world a little bit, give some information, people to know about us.
Good. I mean, so for me, I gave a very orchestrated introduction. We do know each other. We are colleagues working together for a while. So I want to say, without being so orchestrated, that I admire this company that you put together several years ago and I've had such a great reaction to it. We've worked together with several clients. I've seen it in action. I've heard personal reasons and stories of why you created Soberfly to begin with. And by the way, I just always absolutely love the name Soberfly.
Thank you.
But I'm going to
I love
throw
it
it,
too.
I know, but I'm going to throw it on you right now to tell my audience what your feelings are behind your company and how you fit into the mental health space.
Okay, so I've been in the industry for close to a decade, and around COVID time, um, Soberfly was started because I saw that there was a need. There was a need for these types of services. Um, in the treatment world, there's a lot of different levels of care, but there's lacking that continuity of care
Right.
and really having a team behind you to help navigate the system because it's
Yeah, I
really confusing.
right. I mean, I think one of the biggest questions I get is, even where do I begin? Who is good? How do I navigate this? And even though I have my own connections and I have my own, it's limited. And I think a lot of people, when we reach out, are have already established who I work with, what we do, and here you are in this growing, amazing company that you've created, and I'm very impressed with who your outreach is to and how you organize teams. And believe me, I do this frequently, and I'm impressed with other people too. But when we started working together, so far, you really impressed me with the most creativity. I'll be super honest. Even though there are some other people who are creative recently, you've impressed me the most. What specific gaps of care did you see? Let's start at the beginning. When someone first calls up, what do you see that people do know and don't know when they're making a initial phone call to you?
So initial calls can be different sometimes, but it always starts out that they're in a crisis.
Hmm.
I don't know what to do. Sometimes they know more about the treatment world, sometimes not, but there's some level of urgency that things cannot continue the way that they are right now.
Hmm.
So our first step is, we do a free consultation, and the next step would be doing an assessment and really seeing what services can be offered. Sometimes people come in and they want one service, but it's not appropriate, right? So we kind of have to figure out together what is the most appropriate next step. and see if we're a good fit.
Hmm. What would make somebody want to work with Soberfly over in the communities that we work in? Most people do have outreach, whether it's a smaller organization or a member of a religious organization. So my next question for you is, what makes Soberfly different from some of the current organizations in the community?
I just want to come out here and say organizations are amazing. There's nothing like our community. There's an organization for everything, and it's really a great resource. When people are coming to Soberfly, they're looking for something more comprehensive, more tailor-made, and really walking this path with you every single step of the way.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
don't just provide referrals, we have in-person services as well, the coaches and companions that are a really great way to implement whatever people are working, whatever clients are working on in treatment and in therapy. You come back from treatment, and what do? Yay, you learned a lot of skills, but how are you implementing that? You have a plan of going to an outpatient program or a therapist, psychiatrist. What are you doing for the rest of the day? Right? So helping people reacclimate back into life in real time, in person, that is that's one of our services that organizations do not provide, right? Transports. It's not something that organizations provide either. Having a professional that is trained to be able to not just get a client there safely physically, but
Hmm.
emotionally and mentally as well. Picking yourself up and making the decision to go to rehab is really, really scary. And having support throughout the process, professional support, someone that is neutral and knows the system is really, really helpful. We take care of everything from booking flights, hotel, cars, food, um, any arrangements. It takes off the pressure from the family. And you would ask, like, why can't a family member? Why can't a sister, a mom, a cousin, a
I was going
neighbor?
to ask that.
Yeah, and it's like, sure, they can, but sometimes it's inconvenient. It could be right before a holiday. And sometimes people can't take off of work. Besides that, when a family member brings a loved one to treatment, there's just, there could be more anxiety for the family and the client, right? So it's like, it's just this ball of anxiety flying together and they're feeding off of each other instead of someone being there to really hold space and bring everything a notch down.
I would also think that there's a higher flight risk, or, that risk where someone can convince a family member to please bring them home.
1000%. Yeah, I'm saying the airport is a great way to get alcohol, right? It's a great
Hmm.
place to cancel a flight, book a new flight to somewhere else, right? You know, how many times I've heard that people have gone to the airport, they have a flight to California for treatment and they switch their flight to Vegas, right? Like that happens. It does. So you're not just paying for someone to go with someone to treatment. You're paying for a service that really encompasses the emotional, physical, mental safety, and it's a much smoother transition into treatment as well, right? Because we have relationships with all these treatment centers, and it's also, this is another thing, it's a great way for a client to start building a relationship with someone that isn't family, that isn't the treatment center, a third party that they can reach out to, that they can have on the other side, that they can have
Hmm.
during treatment if things are getting tough and they want to leave. So that's an added benefit that people don't really think about beforehand. But when someone's
Well,
in
right now
treatment,
people
yeah.
use their therapist in that role. So,
In what role?
if they want to leave, um, if they're struggling in the process of going to a center, where do you feel?
Sometimes,
Yeah, where do you
not all therapists are involved. Um,
in between
when
sessions? Yeah,
when someone is in treatment because they have that kind of goes into the case management role when someone's in treatment
right. I agree
and
with you. Right. That's
and
true.
so I think it's really important for a treatment center to speak to a therapist before the client leaves treatment, but the therapist has other clients that they're seeing, and the case management role really takes more than like 1 hour a week.
Hmm.
And the client has a therapist in treatment, and they want the client to be building a relationship and doing therapy with the therapist in the treatment center. So that really is switching roles a little bit.
I think the one thing that I got out of working some cases with you and how I would define concierge is even though a therapist or myself, we could be in touch with the family during either the time where they're moving to a treatment center or they need a higher level of care in any capacity. Working with you was one person I could bounce off of. And then your job was to bring it back to the multidisciplinary team. I didn't need to call the doctor and the therapist. And what I liked also is that with your years of experience in the mental health field, that you get what's going on. I don't need to educate you. I don't need to explain it to you. So for me as a practitioner, I think it's great. Sometimes when I speak to the doctor, they don't understand eating disorders. I speak to the therapist, they don't understand eating disorders. Even if they do understand eating disorders, sometimes they don't understand the Jewish culture. And I feel that when I speak to you, I have this one shot, you know, it's like one time you get it, you get the mental health, you get the eating disorder piece, you get the need for higher level of care, you know about the centers, you understand how centers run, you understand what a day looks like in a center, you have outreach that I said to you first was something that blew me away, different outreach for so many different modalities. And one thing I want to touch upon is also you do a lot of holistic, and I don't mean holistic in terms of quacky holistic. I mean in terms of, well, maybe this person does need yoga. Maybe this person does need Pilates. Maybe this person does need equestrian. When you say equestrian, is it equestrian riding or equestrian therapy? What,
Either or.
okay.
They're
So,
both they're both therapeutic.
okay. Someone
Yeah.
may even have a hobby. Maybe they want to go fishing. Maybe that would be where they feel the calmest and they could have an amazing conversation with somebody. For me, I know that we shared a client who loves swimming, and that was very therapeutic. And you arranged for a system where swimming became of therapeutic value for her. So going back to my introduction for you, it was really more about that outside the box creativity, not just oh, this person needs a higher level of care. Where can we send them?
Yeah,
It was,
and that's what happens a lot with um, referrents, whether that's an organization or a private referent, is someone calls and it's like, where do we send them? When we take on a client, it's let's look at the whole system, the client, the family, and really a plan, a long-term plan of how is this person going to get well and stay well. So
right.
it really is looking at things in a different lens. We're short term, immediate, short term, and then long term. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really how it should be done. Because going to rehab, if rehab is the route that someone's taking as their first step, Some people choose that they don't want to go or they can't go for whatever reason. And that's where we come in to build a specialized, tailor-made plan in their home with a whole team of practitioners, possibly a coach, X amount of hours a week as well, so that the client gets that support.
So something else I liked working with you was that you were able to taper up and taper down like that, the level of care that one of my clients needed. And it took 24 to 48 hours and it was done. It wasn't something that took you a week, 2 weeks. I didn't have to remind you in your company that that level of immediacy and urgency that resonated with me during our work together. And can you explain again to my audience what that would mean or an example of tapering the care up or down? And if,
Yeah, so as clients are getting better and more independent, we always want to be tapering down, right? We don't want to be coming in giving 24 hours of care a day or 5 hours of care 3 times a week and then go to nothing. So whatever the client starts out with, as they're getting better, right, we're tapering down. But sometimes
Mhm.
as we're working with a client, something new comes up. And whether it's a big trigger, whether it's a holiday, whether it's a new um, something new that's going on, tapering up and down care is something that we do whenever we work with a client because clients come in at one point and the goal is always to taper down. And for it not to be someone getting a ton of services and then no services, right? We want a client to feel supported and get more and more independent and healthier as we slowly taper down the care. Tapering up the care would be if we're working with a client and either they want more support or we see that they're starting to decline, then we can taper up services so they don't land in another treatment center, right? The goal is not to go in and out of treatment centers.
Right.
The goal is to live a healthy, functional life in the world.
So I have an example when we work together of a woman who you were working with prior to reaching out to me that you were just about to taper down care. And then you or her companion noticed that eating issues started to arise, almost that like the initial problems were masking an eating issue. And in that moment, without wasting time, you called me. We managed the care for this person immediately. But if someone would have let it lag, someone would have said, hey, maybe it's not such a big deal. Let's just see how it plays out. But your company was able to identify it. You called, we took care of it. We realized within 4 weeks that it could be managed again by your company alone, companion, with just some, recommendations, advice, awareness, and you were able to taper down the care once again. So I
Yeah,
thought
and
that was incredible.
that's what happens all the time, right? And that's why I love working with you because you're an eating disorder specialist, right? You're an interventionist, you own a company, you have people working for you, dietitian, you also consult with families. You really do a lot more than an eating disorder dietitian, and it's really amazing what you do, right?
Thank you.
And it happens so often where I'm working on a case, and yes, there's addiction, there's mental health, and we we have to put out like the biggest fire first. Sometimes when we put
Right.
the fire out, we get to see those other, little fires. And I think it works the same way with eating disorders. It's like sometimes someone's doing really well in their eating disorder recovery, and then we're noticing that they're sneaking alcohol,
Correct.
right? Or they're self-harming. And that's where collaboration is key. You have to collaborate. You have to have a team of people that you can trust, that you can rely on, because nobody can do this alone. And if you think you could do this alone, you're in big trouble.
I also think that that is something important about a companion as well. At a certain point, that a companion, even if someone wants to go fishing or wants to go swimming, that could be where the person opens up the most about some of these other co-occurring, issues that someone may not see, because in a moment in therapy or a moment we could hide them. But in a comfortable setting on some of the, I don't know, I think companions are great. I think that they're worth it on so many levels. Can you just explain also, we just have a couple of minutes left, but can you explain what the role of a companion is so that everyone has a clear picture?
Yeah, sure. So a companion is really interchangeable with a coach. We just use the word companion when it's like a longer term coaching situation. But a coach is really there to support the client in real time with what they need, implement what they're doing in therapy, and yes, be able to give feedback to the team because we do pick up on a lot of things that a therapist or psychiatrist does not pick up on because we're seeing them in their natural environment
Mhm.
and for extended periods of time when, yes, going into an office once a week and talking to a therapist or professional, you can't necessarily see that. And just putting it out there, all our clients that are getting coaching services have to be seeing a therapist too. It is not instead of therapy, it's in addition to. There's also accountability, which is a huge piece. Actually doing it. Like you can talk about things from today until tomorrow, but putting it into action, that's where people get stuck. And that's what we help with.
So my final thing is, because you're so passionate about the work that you do, and we both know it's probably one of the most demanding fields someone could work in, what actually keeps you going? What keeps you growing and going in this field where it could really get pretty draining?
So first of all, I love what I do. It really is an art, creating a team, going in and meeting the family members, meeting the client, getting to the root causes of these issues
Hmm.
and staying with the family and the client and seeing the miracles that happen. It's a beautiful process to see people that call from that first phone call in such despair and no hope to smiling and being joyful and inviting me to their celebrations. Another thing that's really important to me is self-care. And that's number one. I have to come to my clients in the most regulated, best state possible. And in order for me to do that, I need to take care of me. And everyone finds the things that work for them. I found the things that work for me. And doing preventative self-care is the best thing to do because then you don't deal with burnout because you're already taking care of yourself.
I love it. I love it. Mimi, what you're doing is incredibly meaningful, and Soberfly reflects it's perfect. It reflects everything that resonates off of you. Passion, commitment, being genuine, caring. I love your creativity in terms of team building. And one of the things I love more than anything is that you truly meet your client where they are and not where the system expects them to be. The work that you're doing is amazing. And I thank
Thank
you for
you.
doing what you're doing. And if anybody is listening, or everybody, I hope, who is listening, who wants to hear how they could get in touch with you, can you please share?
Best thing is call 718-223-7211. You can call or text to set up a free 15-minute consultation. You can also email info@soberfly.com, info@soberfly.com. It's
Mimi,
been a pleasure. Thank you, Iris.
thank you for being here.